Hey guys, a warm welcome to the session today. We are gonna talk about a lot about how Bakvi went into INSEAD with a 700 score on GMAT and that too with a scholarship. But a quick reminder of this MBA Spotlight event that GMAT Club is organizing for all the students. Another step in the right direction to help people get into their dream B schools. So if you want to meet the adcoms of top B schools like Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, I'm pretty sure that there are many other B schools from all parts of the world, the top B schools that you're gonna join the MBA Spotlight event. So do join GMAT Club and this channel for the same. Do subscribe and make sure that you click on the link so that you get the spots which are limited for this particular session. And this is conducted on 13th and 14th of June. And it's really informational. And today, Bhargavi is going to talk a lot about how she made it into INSEAD. So I don't want to talk further. I'll be inviting Bhargavi, who used GMAT with end-to-end solution. She was a GMAT with student for GMAT preparation, as well as she took our admission consulting service to make it to INSEAD. So Bhargavi, a very warm welcome to the session today. How does it feel to get into one of the top schools in the world? In fact, INSEAD is ranked 2 globally for international MBA programs. So how does it feel to get into your dream school?
It feels honestly out of the world, Piyush. I was just feeling that just a few months ago, I was on the other side listening to, admitted students talk about their journeys, how they cracked GMAT. And I was honestly not sure if there was ever light at the end of the tunnel. But so glad, grateful that made it to the end and I'm here with you today. So, yes.
Really great. I remember when we were discussing in the afternoon, and Barkavi was saying, I'm feeling really nervous today. I was always at the other end of the table, so I'm not sure how this end looks like. And I'm really happy that you could actually turn the tables around. And I'm very confident that many of you who are joining us live today will be able to do so. So keep your questions coming. Let your questions come here, and I'm just playing the role of a moderator. Obviously, I always say that, but I end up adding a lot of different things. So I'll add some information by my side, but it's all about you guys and Barkavi. Like you are free to shoot any questions. A broad structure that I've thought of, very broad structure, is that we're gonna try to wrap this up in 40-45 minutes time. We are gonna focus first on the INSEAD application part because that's the more interesting angle that most of you want to cover, and I'm gonna focus a lot of put a lot of emphasis on the scholarship angle as well. And the scholarship again, Bhargavi, I was just calling you to let you know the scholarship that you received was exactly between the number that we asked for, basically. So it always gives us that feeling that we could have asked for more and probably it could have still worked. But yeah, we'll talk a lot about that scholarship angle in this 30 minutes discussion. And then we are going to quickly talk about the GMAT preparation tips for working professionals. And a lot of inputs will come from Barkavi's side because Barkavi had a really hectic work schedule at work as well because she was an entrepreneur handling multiple arms of the business, multiple divisions. So that was a very complex journey for her. So we'll talk about the GMAT prep angle as well in depth. So we always try to bring different angles. So today we are going to talk about these two perspectives. So Bakari, let's start with your introduction. Let's tell the users more about you first. What is that you do? Your experiences to date, yeah.
Of course. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me here. I'm Barkavi. I'm from Chennai, India, and I come from the commerce background. And I also hold a diploma from the Chara Institute of Management Accountants, UK. And that's on the educational side. On the professional side, I have close to 5 years of work experience. I started out my career in Boston Consulting Group in the corporate finance and strategy practice area, close to 2 years there. And then I moved into my family business just before COVID and have been with them for the last 3 years. And over the last 3 years, I've got a chance to work across the different verticals that we operate in. That is essentially hospitality, metals and mining, and real estate. So started out as a rookie, and now I operate, manage end-to-end strategy and operations, and finance in certain verticals and strategy in certain verticals. So yes.
Great. So overall work experience, how many years of experience do you have,
five,
Bakari, for the users?
5 years, 5 years.
5 years. 5 years. Great. So in general, like when you look at INSEAD, I remember our discussion initially. when we were starting the entire journey of application. Again, we had a lot of discussions around GMAT as well, but I'll take them up as towards the end of the session. But when we were starting our discussion, I remember that we were looking at INSEAD. General age, average age is around 29 years. So there are like people with coming with much more experience than like probably Barkavi has. A lot of people have experience of 7, 8, 9 years in INSEAD. So at that point of time, there were multiple questions in mind. And I remember, Barkavi, you were telling about the process of even thinking about INSEAD. I think you spoke to multiple people. Like, how was your journey for the application process for INSEAD?
Absolutely. So while I finished my GMAT prep with GMAT Wiz, and I wanted to try out the consulting also from GMAT Wiz, I still wanted to check my options in the market to understand what is the scene like. And in that process, spoke to a few people. But again, given that the international MBAs require quite an amount of work experience, and my GMAT score, while a good enough score for people to look at my profile, it's just that Indian average is quite high for GMAT essentially across. This is irrespective of whatever GMAT average that's shown on the websites, Indian average is quite high. So I was quite unsure, and some of the agents that I'd spoken to, they were not honestly ready to take a bet at higher universities. The same university that they had spoken to me when in my previous attempt, I had scored a 650. So at that time, whatever colleges they pitched to me, they continued to pitch the same to me. But I was honestly very grateful to GMAT Wiz when I spoke to you, Piyush. I don't know if you remember, the first conversation was with you, and you very clearly, clinically try to understand my background, my what I want to do, and then did not give me high expectations, like did not promise me the sky, but just figured out what will work out, right? And INSEAD as a school really appreciates people giving back to the society, having entrepreneurial experience, and that's something that I have and I bring to the table, right? So we knew that INSEAD is going to be a dream school, but something that we can definitely convert if we put in the efforts to it. So that's how we went about shortlisting. So INSEAD, and then we're looking at Darden as well,
Anyway,
because I wanted to get consulting for a bit, and we were even considering if we should do LBS, and we were also, and because I wanted to focus on Asia, we also thought about NUS and ISB. So we essentially looked at these 5 schools and ended up working on INSEAD and NUS together. So yes.
both of which Barkavi converted, by the way. And at INSEAD, she was able to convert with a scholarship of 18,000 euros. So those of you who think that to get into a top B school like INSEAD, you just need a high GMAT score, think twice. And it's not that scholarships are dependent on high GMAT scores. I'm going to talk about scholarship angle as well. In fact, the number that she got, like Barkavi got, 18,000, was exactly between the number that we quoted. We quoted for 15,000 to $20,000. It was exactly between that number, which basically meant that INSEAD was probably uh, happy to give a higher scholarship as well. Who knows? Like that's the situation that we were in. Okay, but let's go about the process. So how did you start, Barkavi? Generally, what people do is like when they look at the application of a particular B school, they go to their websites, they open up the website, check out the essay prompts that are there, and they start working on the essays. They start speaking to people. That's what they do. They start with the essays first. Like, but what was your thought process? Like, I know that, but I'm just asking this to kind of help other students who are in the same situation to actually do the right field work before getting started with the application. So, how did you
Of
go
course.
about the entire process?
Yes. So, like I'd already mentioned, I think we sat together and understood, shortlisted our schools depending on my persona, the things that I bring to the table, and the goals that I have for myself and my business. So, that was the first step. The step two was to actually go and read up on each of these website, each of the school websites, as to the kind of programs they have, the kind of alumni network they have, the kind of active participation they do have. I went on GMAT Club. I went through, debriefs of people who've gotten into these schools, and I also reached out to my network. So I had colleagues from BCG who had also gotten into INSEAD, but not on the MBA front, but on MIM front. So I still spoke to them. I
Okay.
got to understand how it works and got a few contacts and leads from them as well to understand how the program works. And the work of finalizing the college institute does not end until even after you finish your application. I remember having these conversations with interviewers. So when I was interviewing in INSEAD, I'd actually ask them, I used very actively use the minutes that they do give us to ask questions to them about how their experience was and what advice they would give me when I would get in and be in their shoes, right? And those are advices that I take to heart now, and I'm following it right now. So yes, I was proactively reach out to network, see what leads you have, and talk to people, because that really changes. I remember having a conversation with my colleague at NUS, who had mentioned that my profile, given that entrepreneurial background that I bring in, would be more suited for INSEAD actually. And she, also motivated me to give in my best for INSEAD. So yes, reach out to the network.
No, that's very, very important. The reaching out part to the network. In fact, not just for the B schools that you're looking at, you should always reach out for the network in general for people who have done MBAs to understand from them what is the career opportunities, even the fields that you want to get into. You have to understand from them as well. So really, really interesting point. I'll just
Yeah.
summarize Bharkavi, your process. So the process that Bharkavi followed can be actually looked at in these 5 phases. Again, we are going to talk about all the 5 phases one by one. So the first step was story building, which was to kind of understand in depth about like the profile. So I remember Bharkavi and I had multiple discussions. I think we spent about a couple of weeks, just 2 weeks on this particular part, where we didn't look at a single essay at all. It was just about understanding who Bharkavi is, what she brings to the table, her achievements. And I have a question from Ritvik. He's asking about CV. So we also looked at the CV, multiple angles, and all those things. And I remember asking Bharkavi a lot about her, let's say, personal background, in sense, family background. She draws a lot of inspiration from her father. So we talked a lot about her father's background as well, the upbringing, all those things, the values. And after 2 weeks, we were in a position that we had a very good idea that what Bharkavi really stands for. She understood, she knew beforehand that she wants to expand her business, make it a global conglomerate. But exactly what's stopping her to achieve that, to fine tune that thought process, was something which was very, very critical to give thought shape to. And then that's when we went to the second stage, which was school selection. Because obviously, if your story is not right, you don't know exactly what you like, exactly what you want to achieve, what is your career path and all. Deciding the B school becomes very difficult. And I remember this. Bharkavi was like, okay, I need to look at a 1 year MBA program, which we ended up with in the end. But we still looked at a lot of other options like Darden in the US, and we were also talking about ESA in Barcelona, which is a slightly longer than 1 year program. But yeah, we looked at multiple options which were focused on entrepreneurs, which were focused on what Bharkavi could achieve through it, keeping all the other options in mind. And then that's when, after working on school selection, I think for school selection also we spend 3-4 days, but it's like doing the research, taking buy-ins and everything. And that's when we went to the essay structuring part. And for essay structuring also, INSEAD, by the way, has 22 essays. If you include all the prompts that are there, like there are 7 main essays, then there are 2 video essays, there's optional essay, there are 5 or 6 questions from each recommender they have to answer. So it's a crazy thing. And then the scholarship essays are like 3 more essays which come to you towards the end. And then you are like, okay, I need to just write and write. So there's so many essays which are there, but all of it becomes very easy for you. In fact, I think we did not have to spend more than like 2 or 3 days on all the essays together, because our essay structuring was something which we spent good time on. Like about 3-4 days we spent on essay structuring, and then the essay and LOR review happened, and finally the interview prep. So I'm just showing you this flowchart to kind of register in your mind that what your process of applying to B school should be. You should not directly start with step 3, like most people actually get to the step of essay structuring in the first place. Like that's what they generally start with. So don't ever make a mistake there. Don't ever make a mistake there. Make sure that you are actually going through this proper process as Bharkavi did overall. And as part of your story building exercise, like what all did you do, Bharkavi? Let's dive deeper into the story building process. Like, is just that your MBA story, like long term, short term goals that you focused on, or anything else that you also focused on this part?
So, like you said, initially we were just trying to understand, who I am. You were trying to understand who I am, and I was also like, going through this process of introspection. And if you remember, I just want to call it out to the audience that the INSEAD essays, like Piyush mentioned, has 22 essays, right? And the way they are structured is they ask you, what have you done till now? What will you, what are your next future plans? What will you do if, in case you don't even get into B school? And your strengths, your weaknesses, your achievements, your failures, and through the process you also end up thinking and introspecting, because at the top of your head, at the top of my head, when I started out, I knew I needed to fill in the gaps and understand how I could expand my business. But how am I going to go there? Where are my strengths and weaknesses? What should I be focusing on? So all these questions really helped. And we each of the essays, before we started out, we would break it into smaller parts to understand what actually is the intent of the adcom when they are asking the question. And we also you'd suggested we use the star approach of the situation task, so that I'm able to convey the point quite concisely and directly. And then we also spoke about, we also decided how each of these storylines are going to play in the bigger picture. Like, there are 22 essays, and there's we I am I bring 5 years of work experience. So what are we going to highlight at what point? How is it all going to play together? Because when the adcom sits and reads through each of those essays, it needs to be a story, right? So what are we going to highlight for myself, and what are the qualities that I've highlighted here, which the recommender can also validate? If I say I take initiative, I give back to the society, my recommender has actually seen me do that. So to like balance it out, just having that conversation with the recommender also, it helped me with that, to given me tips as to like how we can have the conversation with them, how we can guide them when they are going through the process of writing it for us, right? So I
No,
think
very, very valid point. In fact, that particular angle that you talked about, is main thing that summarizes of all is the consistency in the entire essay. Because when you have 22 essays, like if you have 2 essays, 3 essays, it is easy to maintain that consistency. When you have 22 essays, people who don't think about like a concrete storyline or a central theme, they end up swaying away from one point to the other. They try to project different angles of their profile. They try to present that they are like they are so good in so many different angles, and overdoing is also very, very bad. You don't
yes.
want the adcom to be confused, right? You don't want them to think of you as, okay, he also acts, he's someone who has done well in this, that, this, that. You don't want them to think about like hundreds of different angles. They need to have a consistent
I
understanding of you.
That's the biggest feedback I think you would also given me reviewing my draft once, because when I wanted to share a lot, you asked me, let's go back to page one, always stick to the persona and what the INSEAD values are, how is it both aligning, so that we focus on one. And we had to also ensure that what I'm calling out in the essay and what I'm calling out in the resume as well, because should be all aligned together.
All very, very important. And that's why at GMAT we strongly believe in this concept of applicant persona. So whenever a student works with us, and I'm recommending this to all of you who are going to apply to any top B school that you want to aim for, applicant persona is important. Understand your own self, develop a right skill, like define yourself in 3 4 words. Try to do that. Like, and you should have your achievements to substantiate them, instances to substantiate them. So what defined Barkavi, like the things that we talked about was she believes a lot in giving back to society. She had done a lot to serve the society, not just from an NGO angle, like from all other angles. She started the alumni chapter in her school to help people, and there was a very unique angle to that as well. Like we covered that in the optional essay. There's a good background story to that as well. She actually helped people set up computer centers, and how she drew inspiration from her father. And her father is a very known personality in Chennai, by the way. Like she has seen her father giving back to the society from a long time, and that is something which she portrayed in herself. So we focus on that one persona. Again, we focus on the problem solving angle as well, that she's someone who finds innovative solutions. She's not someone who would just look at a problem and let it be. She always focused on innovative solutions, and she always believes in taking initiatives. These were three concrete things which were like coming out. And applicant persona is not just about your professional achievements, it's also about you as an individual. So try to differentiate them from a long-term and short-term career goals. These are things which are more about you. And if you look at INSEAD, we always have to look at what the B school is looking at as well. So we actually saw that there are these four important aspects. Again, B schools look at multiple things. So Ritvik was asking about how do I prepare my CV. You need to look at multiple angles. It's probably this is the slide that you need to focus on over here. And not just this, there are multiple other angles that you have to probably focus on. But yeah, international experience, very, very, very critical for INSEAD. Leadership experience, very critical for INSEAD. In fact, INSEAD is one of the few schools which have two rounds of interview. One is a general round, and the second round is specifically focused on your leadership. Basically, it's a complete interview focused around leadership. So you can understand how much impetus is actually put on leadership. Now, you might think, is there a B school in the world which doesn't focus on leadership? Again, I understand that leadership is an important skill, but for INSEAD, it's a very, very, very different level that you have to focus on. Then impact on society. You have to look at that. Like most of the B schools are looking at these days, was INSEAD looks at it at a different level. Again, average age 29 years. So we had to be cognizant of these facts. We have to understand what are the strong areas for Barkavi, what are not. Impact on society, very, very strong area. International experience, decently strong. She had worked at BCG with global teams, so decently strong, but she had not went for work abroad. But what we focused on was that why is INSEAD looking at international experience? They don't want you to be physically present. If you are for physically present, then obviously that is a good thing. But the main reason why they are looking at international experience is to understand in an international class, can you actually work along with people from different countries, different cultures? Are you culturally sensitive? Can you do that or not? And same way, leadership experience doesn't mean that you have to lead a team of like 10 people or 20 people. It's about creating impact. And how can you create impact even at a small level with less experience? That's what we wanted to focus on. Now, why am I talking about all this? Because if you don't keep these things in mind, then your application is not going to be as impactful as it should be. So it's very important that you keep all these pointers in mind, and you also keep your persona in mind while writing down the essays. Again, I'm doing the talking here. Supposed to be the interview of Barkavi. So sorry for that, but yeah, just that for me, I guess.
Structure to whatever I had already I was also mentioning. So
Yes.
of course.
Yeah,
Yes, and
slides basically help people to relate visually to what we're discussing.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to add on, like, about the interviews, right? Because I had the experience of, interviewing with different schools, and INSEAD as such, they have, there is a video interview round that happens right after you finish your application, because they want to put a face to all the story that we are mentioning, where you have a prompt and 1 minute to prepare, and then you have to like present immediately. And then even in the interview sections later on, when you get selected for the interview round, each of those interviews go up to an hour, where it's they really go into the depths of each of the stories that you've mentioned, understand you, and put in weight to everything that you've answered, you've mentioned in your story profile. So definitely, I think the fact that the applicant persona and the B school values really helped me stay focused when I was working on all of this. So yeah.
Okay. So we have a question from Sudain. So I'm just going to take that up for you. So Sudain is saying, I have low academics and no international experience. Can I get into INSEAD? Uh,
I think, and also the fact that he's also added, by the way, I'm 21 years old. So I think INSEAD is actually just looking at if you've made the most of the opportunities that were given to you. Right. Of course, if you are lacking in low academics during college and school, you can always make up for it when you are giving your GMAT exam. And at times, even if when the institute feels like you have a decent GMAT, decent work experience, but it still feels like you need to improve on certain aspects, they specifically recommend courses for you to do before you come on board. So academics is carried off, is complete. And work experience, international work experience, like Piyush sir mentioned, it's not just about being physically there, it's also working across. So look for opportunities right now. 21 is a very young age, especially given INSEAD's MBA is 29, but I think MIM is still a little more, 22, 23. So So you still have some time. Look at virtual internships, look at programs that you can, companies that you can work for, that gives you that kind of exposure. So you can add it on to the resume when you do end up preparing for your application. So yeah.
But yeah, you have to probably get that international experience, cultural experience at least in that sense to kind
Yes.
of
Yeah.
get through to
Yeah.
INSEAD. So as make sure that you utilize your time to the best in the coming years.
He's
So
very
that's
young, so so he still has time to
you have
work
that.
on it and fill
Yeah.
those gaps.
Yes, yes, yes. And then yeah, you if you dream it, you can achieve it most likely. So that's important that you focus on that as well. Okay. Okay, so I'll move forward then, Barkavi, in the interest of time. We've already spent
Of
25
course.
minutes. I just saw the clock. Let's the next step. So basically, what we first did was we first focused on the story building. We did this persona, then we focused on the B school identification and all of that. But when we came down to essays, it's very important as a next step. You should, as a student, understand what the essay is really asking you. It should not just be the question prompt that you're looking at. It should be also what the essay is really asking you. Obviously, I can't do an analysis of all 22 essays of INSEAD. All of us will go crazy if I try to do that. So I've just tried to take up a couple of essays of INSEAD and help you guys understand how did we go about understanding the essays. So thus one essay, this is I think the second essay in the entire application of INSEAD, which actually talks about an alternate plan. So if you read the prompt, like I just give you a minute to read the prompt along with me. So what would be your next steps in terms of positions if you were to remain in the same company instead of going to business school? Now, if you want, take a shot at it. Tell me, what do you think this essay is really looking for? What is this essay asking for? Like, I'm gonna do an analysis in the interest of time without even waiting for your answers to come in. But if you have any thoughts about it, do share it with me in the chat. I'll be really, really glad to see them. But the main things that you have to focus on is what would be your next step. See, I have not highlighted in terms of position. Many people focus a lot more in terms of position. That okay, I'm a manager right now. I'll become a senior manager. I'll become a director. I'll become this. I'll become that. No, you don't even have to focus on if you were to remain in the same company. Not necessarily, because see, again, you have to understand. You might think, okay, Piyush, what you're saying is going against the essay prompt of INSEAD. You're telling that you're smarter than INSEAD. No, I'm not. I'm just trying to go inside the head of an admission committee officer to understand why has he written this essay prompt. They are trying to understand that what is the next step you have understood to take your career forward instead of going to B school. That's what they are interested in. It's not necessary for you to stick to the same company. Everyone knows that probably you're not going to stay in the same company for a long, long time. You can also stay, but it's not about that. It's about the long-term goal. It's about that. The intent is to check how aware you are about your potential career outcomes and the skill gaps. These two angles. And Barkavi, any light that you want to throw on this? I remember our discussion around this SAV. I think we spent good amount on this one.
Absolutely. Knowing the fact that this is why, I think we had the same discussion as well, right? The first draft that I had given you was actually focusing on the position, and the fact that I come from a family business, there's not going to be a difference in position. So I was actually worried, how am I going to present my case well? But the idea that, okay, if B school does not happen, I am still going to, my long term goals doesn't change. Like, INSEAD is just a means to an end of me developing my business. So how am I going to do this, make it happen, right? So INSEAD was more focused about that, and I thought about it. I had just thought about, forget the time invested in GMAT and B schools, but just focused on very specifically on my goals and how I'm going to achieve it. And so the way we structured our essay also was, we'd mentioned these details, and also how that while this is my next step, how I think that INSEAD is still going to add value, because like I was
Yes.
looking at international expansion. Yes, I can go to a new place, look at associates, look at leads, but the amount of time I'm going to waste in trial and error is going to be removed when I go for an international MBA. There's going to be a lot of validation that happens. I'm going to learn from my peers. So I highlighted those aspects as well in the question. 200 words is quite limited when we think of all
It's
the
nothing.
angles that we want to cover, but laser sharp focus on what they want, what they're looking for, helps you structure it better.
Yes, it's very important to understand that. So the main aspect that you have to focus on is what is your plan B. And the plan B should always be aligned with your long-term goal. It should never be away from a long-term goal. You are planning to do something, and then in your next step, you are talking about something else. You're saying, okay, if I don't get into this B school, instead of doing getting into consulting, I'll go into product management. It's a big no-no for INSEAD right away. INSEAD should not be the end goal. It should be the way or means to achieve that end goal for you. So the end goal has to remain the same. In Barkavi's case, it was international expansion of business. It was creating process-centric businesses which are not dependent on people, because she wanted to make it a global conglomerate, and she can't do that if the business is people-centered rather than process-centered. So that was something which we focused on. We have to also explain that you also understand the skills required to achieve it. It's not just about the plan B. It should also be about whether you understand that what does it take from the position that you are at today to achieve over here. What are the skills that will navigate you through that particular position? And you have to also understand what are the other options to develop the skills. I remember, Varkavi, you wrote about a lot of other options or programs that you can probably take up. You mentioned about setting up businesses in Sweden. Like you already had some ideas around that. So again, we have to present that there are other options to develop the skills, but at the same time, like in this 200 words, you have to also fit in how the MBA is still the ideal option to develop it. And trust me, the most difficult thing is to probably fit everything in those 200 words. So this is really crazy. Yes, and in that respect, like just when you're talking about 200 words, it's very important that you structure your answers, and not just structure in the sense of what you need to write, also to understand what kind of space you need to give to each angle, what kind of discussion you need to or time you need to spend on each. I remember my discussions with Barkavi. I was always like, okay, you know what, we need 200 words here, so you are going to write 30 words on this, 50 words on this, 30 on this, and then I'm calculating how many are left with us. So like you have to be that razor sharp. Your focus has to be that razor sharp. That I just have these many words. I have to get the outcome and the impact. And all of it has to be knit very well. It has to flow very well in form of a story. So it's a challenging task, but yeah, that's how you get into a dream B school, right? So it's not easy at the end of the day. Yeah. Yeah, so let's take up another essay. I think, Bhargavi, I like to take up this essay, the achievement and failure essay. It's a very interesting essay once again from INSEAD, and I'm showing this essays to you guys to understand a what does go behind in the adcom's mind, and then how do you structure it. Okay, Sarthak, I'll take up Sarthak's question. It is about GMAT preparations. I'll take it up towards the second part of that discussion. Sarthak, definitely. Don't worry about that. But anyone has any question about INSEAD to Barkavi, please feel free to ask us right now. Okay, so achievements and failure essay. Again, this essay, if you focus on, just try to read this along with me. Describe the achievement of which you are most proud and explain why. In addition, describe a situation where you failed. How did this experiences impact your relationship with others? Comment on what you learned. Again, there are a lot of keywords here, but I've just highlighted some of them. The achievement means one single achievement. You can't mention two, you should not mention three. Just focus on one achievement. They are clearly saying the achievement. So just make sure you focus on that. Why? Why is that? Again, it is important. Where you failed, failure should not ignore that. Make sure that you focus on this. And how these experiences, both your achievement and your failures, impacted your relationship with others. So they are giving you hints. They don't want it to be just focused on your career. They don't want it to be just focused on the economic or financial impact that you have made. It has to be focused on relationship with others as well. Many people don't take cues from this. They just randomly talk about their achievements, their failures. They'll mention a project that they did. They'll talk about a work-related failure. Where is the learning? That learning is very, very critical. And I remember when we were talking about this, I think we talked about this essay and the strengths and weakness essay together. We had like 4 or 5 star achievements. The discussion that we had through the like story building part, we had a complete list of achievements, and we tried to fit everything which works best over here and there. And accordingly, we came down to a structure where we thought that we'll focus on about 260 to 275 words on the achievements. And I was checking Barkavi, we ended up doing about 280 words on the achievement actually, where we will focus on international exposure. Now try to link these things with what you we talked about earlier. So NCR is looking at international exposure. Very, very important that you focus on that. Cultural understanding of global teams. So when Barkley, would you like to take up this angle like of your achievement of BCG that we meant? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, like you'd mentioned that, we're not just looking at the, the impact, the, monetary impact, while that is very important, more about the relationships. So my example, my achievement was actually about how I built really strong relationships with the knowledge team. I worked with the research team, knowledge team in BCG, who were set in Bangalore and Singapore office, and how I had, shown them that I was interested in learning, how I got them to trust me, also take off workload from their hands, how I was capable enough to deliver on them, so that, I would get exposed, I would help them out, and I would also get exposed to advanced analysis that they were working on. So I focused on building relationships across borders, and, building trust, and how in certain aspects they would blindly just give me work, and I would just do it, and then, we will forward it together. And how in the process of doing all of this, that this was not just centered towards me. I was helping my team in the research center to expand the scope of work that they were working on as well. I was also building on tools and templates that my team could use based on whatever understanding I got from this team, the advanced analysis that we worked on, to make their life easier as well. So I played both the parts, because and focused on that more than, yes, I did mention that, so much time was saved, so much, additional amount, the impact, monetary impact was also mentioned,
Revenue
but focus
improvement.
was on relationships, about how external as well as internal
Yes.
relationships, and, working, understanding sensitivities, right, across cultures, and time differences and backgrounds. So yes, so that's what I focused on achievement
It's
as
ve-
such. And
it's
you
very,
shall I
very
take up
important for you to.
as well?
Sorry, Barkley. I think I think you're able to hear me.
Yes, I'm able to
Hello.
hear you. Hello.
Okay.
Yes, I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
wanted to
I
ask,
can hear you.
should I jump in on the failure aspect as well, or do we add a few more points in this
Yeah,
discussion?
let's go to that. I'm just summarizing this. So very important angle, which like point number three that you have to also focus on impact of achievement on the people in your team. That's very important. Barkavi made sure that she did that. She mentioned external and internal stakeholders. External stakeholders were the global team. In that this case, internal stakeholders were the people who were working with her. So she brought a lot of great work to the team, like which were off limits to her team, and that angle you have to cover. So in one essay, you understand so how many different things you are covering through just one example in a very subtle fashion. So that's the beauty of being subtle and being cognizant of your skills and what the B school is looking at basically. So it's very important that you do this groundwork and this research. So let's jump onto the failure part, I think. Yeah.
Yes. So failure aspect also, how, because it's about relationships, and this is also a very, I was worried about how, how this is going to play around, how is the adcoms going to look at it. But failure, because I come from the hospitality background, I started out, in hotel management, and I realized that that school was very specific to teaching operations, not, overall strategy, those aspects that I would need as a businesswoman managing businesses across verticals, right? So that was my reason. But when that was the actual failure that I went through, and I quit the program, and then in the free time I decided to explore different options, to understand where I was actually suited in. The concept of taking a year off to understand, which fields will suit you is more appropriate in the European or the, the Western worlds. In India, it's still unheard of, right? So at that time when I decided to do it, I got a lot of backlash from the society, and but I understood that they, a part of it was coming from their sense of trying to help me also. But I try to just look at it very well, that okay, I need to know what is my strengths, what's my weaknesses, and I focus on that aspect. Like, while it was difficult for me to handle the backlash from the society, it also acted as motivation to do better, and to, continue forward with them, right? Take in the goods from all the backlash that I had got, and still go forward in the path. So yeah, I think that's about the failure, and I
So
focused on
very
that
important.
relationship aspect. Yes.
And it's very, very important that you cover that up. Like a lot of people think that if you have a year gap, probably you cannot justify that in B schools, you cannot get into top B schools. It's not like that. If you have a career break, year gap, you should have a valid reason behind it. And the B
Exactly.
schools would love to know it. In fact, that's what Bhargavi did. She focused on learning. Like she focused on
Yes.
like how she utilized that time effectively. She was not like sitting at home just like doing random things. She was actually planning for certain things which actually helped her to grow her career. And not just that, she actually started an alumni committee in her school to ensure that the other students who are actually going to the college later on are not suffering from the same problem. They don't end up wasting a year, but because just because they don't get the right guidance. So you have to focus on all the angles. And one more important aspect that I would like to present over here is like you have to be smart. So in 125 to 140 words, you cannot mention your year gap related details. You cannot mention your corrective actions and everything in detail. So you have to focus on the main detail instead of the detail. Like you have to focus on the important aspects because again, we have 125 to 140 words. 125 and 140 words is very less. So focus on important aspects, and we very smartly covered everything else in the optional essay. In fact, I remember we were not planning to do an optional essay before writing this essay. Actually, we thought that we will cover the year gap over here. That's when we realized it's not actually working out. This detail is not enough. We have to get deeper into the optional essay, and that's when we took the optional essay. I think just 2 days before the application deadline was there, we took up the optional essay and we wrote that out. Like so, it has to be done very smartly. You have to understand what can go here, what can go there, and it still has to make a lot of sense. And that coherence is important. If we had actually gone ahead in the detail in this essay, A, we did not have the space. B, it would have disrupted the line of thought with this entire essay. So that process should be clear in your mind as well overall. Okay. So yeah, we are at the end of 40 minutes already, and I've not talked about scholarships at all. So I'll quickly cover this up. I thought we will go in depth on this. So again, scholarships. So Barkavi, when do you have to write the scholarship essays for INSEAD? Like, is it along with the application, after the application? How is it?
After the application and after you've actually gotten the interview invites, they reach out to you, and you have to write the scholarship essay. This is after interview, but before you've actually gotten into the program is when you have to write these
Hmm.
scholarship essays, and the scholarship decision comes after you've gotten into the program. So essentially, application first, and 1 month later you get your interview invites, and from the interview to the decision period, the scholarship email is sent out. So you have to write scholarship essays and decision first for your program, and then scholarship comes a little later on. So yes.
Great, great. So you have to be cognizant of this factor. In fact, you cannot just sit out and relax that I'm done with the INSEAD application. It keeps on coming. Like that's what Bhargav is telling. Like there were more essays that we had to work on. And I remember our initial discussion. So Bhargavi's family is right now doing decently well in terms of business and financial things. But in terms of the essays, if you look at the essay prompts and all, let me just show you the slides. Again, these are the 3 essay prompts which were there. And I have actually highlighted the portions over here. They want to understand your financial circumstances. They want to understand if you don't obtain a scholarship, then how would you finance your studies? They want to understand how will you close the gap financially. You have to talk about extenuating circumstances. You have to talk about financing your secondary education. So all the questions indicate that it should be it's more like a need-based scholarship. If you don't have the need for it, they will probably not give you a scholarship. But you have to understand that a B school always looks for people who are merit-based scholars as well. They are always looking at it. Even if the essays were not asking about that, we tweaked our answers in a very subtle fashion, in a way to talk about the impact that Bhargavi has created on the society. Her upbringing, her seeing her father coming from a very, very humble background, like from a place where he had to literally take care of his entire family at a very, very young age. And from there, seeing him rise up. So all those things, how that has actually created an impact on her mind to kind of give back to the society, and how she feels that she should be actually starting a scholarship in the long run. All those angles helped Bhargavi get a scholarship of $18,000, euros, which slightly probably more than $18,000. So she was able to get the scholarship. So you have to understand that nothing doesn't necessarily need to be the questions. You have to understand the important angles, and you can always present your individual case over there. And I remember I and Bharkavi were not very confident on the scholarship. I even said to Bharkavi that I'm happy with the admit here. If we get a scholarship, that's a big plus. But we kept our faith still right on the essays, and I was really happy that the day Bharkavi told me that I've gotten not just gotten it, I've gotten it with a scholarship as well from INSEAD. So, anything you want to add on top of this, Bharkavi, like with respect to the scholarship angle for students?
Definitely. No, you've covered it very well, sir. I think it's about also, like, how you subtly, remind them. Because also another thing that we had to look at was people who view these scholarship essays don't essentially look at your admission essays. So we had to convey our story, but not, we don't have a lot of real estate to convey our story as well. I need to tell them that I've seen my father, come from a humble background, and I want to, help do my part to the family, as I've always done through school, college. And I wanted to call out that angle, call out the fact that because I am doing for scholarship essays which are diverse in nature. So, given that I bring diversity and the kind of experiences that I bring to the plate, and I needed to also tell them that if given this opportunity, I wanted to remind them, because I don't know if they've actually seen the admissions essays, that in the past I worked with my school as an alumni president. I set up the alumni committee in school and college, and in college I actively contribute to helping my juniors go through career different career pathways. So I wanted to call it out, and I told them that, hey, I've done this in the past, and I would be more than happy and willing to continue forward and do this in the future if I'm given the chance. And so calling out all those angles were important. I think that that's the only thing I wanted to add, the fact that scholarship essay readers don't essentially get a view on your admission essay. So you have to remember to convey your story, but be smart about the real estate you use for it.
Yes, and you have to be cognizant of that. If you're not aware of that, you probably will assume that they know it. And they also
Yeah.
give you hints in their essays. So if you look at point C, they clearly say that give the main reason why an INSEAD MBA is relevant for your future career development. Obviously, they have
Yeah,
asked you to write all the SOPs and everything in place. Then why are they asking you this question again? Probably because
exactly.
of the same reason which Bankavi is telling. They don't have access to your admission applicants in essays as well. So again, you have to be cognizant of that. So really great insights, Barkavi, into this. I don't see a lot of questions on the chat here. And this happens generally when the interviews are really insightful. People learn a lot from them. So I'm hopeful that all of you are actually learning a lot from the discussion that we are having. So please feel free to ask any questions if you have missed out on anything. I wanted to talk about interview prep, but we don't have the time for it. So I'm skipping that. So we will invite Barkavi on GMAT Viz YouTube channel as well, which is our own YouTube channel where we also conduct a lot of other success story interviews of different people. In fact, we recently did an interview with another student who had a 680 on the GMAT and she applied to ISB round three. And she was able to get into ISB round three, which is almost impossible for people. At 680 is almost impossible. 720 is like the average number in general rounds. So ISB round three is like much more difficult, but she was able to get in. So if you wants to take inspiration from her, you can always watch out. And for Barkavi also, we are going to invite her on our channel to. In that, we'll focus more on the interview angle. So sorry, I'm not going to take up it today. So let's talk on the GMAT angle now, Barkavi. So again, we are going back to almost what 2 years back from today. So you might have to recall a lot of things from there. So how was your GMAT journey? Like, what were the major challenges that you faced in your preparation? Let's talk about that.
GMAT was honestly a very humbling experience for me, because while I've been good at academics, quant was always something that was difficult for me. So right after 10th grade, when I had an option, I dropped out quant, and that came to bite me when I was preparing for my GMAT. So I think I actually started out GMAT on my own, self-study, and YouTube videos and other options that were available, because that was during COVID period, a little more time on my hands to spare. So I started out on my own, but even though I was performing well, in the mocks that I had given on at my end, I was still not, on the day of my exam, I don't know what happened. It all went down, and I didn't get a good score. And after that, when I was trying to understand that, hey, I have a good profile and I know I want to go into a good B school, but GMAT is the one obstacle. I found GMAT was, and actually the reason the one thing that really attracted me was the AI aspect, because I've actually studied the entire portion, given GMAT once before, and where am I going wrong? Why is this not working out? That I felt the AI will really help me with it. And once I came on to GMAT, was I realized there's a lot more to the whole program than just AI. So I had the like I liked the very clinical approach, because I didn't have a lot of time to waste. I am a working professional. I didn't I the time hours that I could devote to GMAT, I wanted it to be productive. So the AI, as well as my mentor who got assigned to me as part of the program, we really looked at what is my strengths, what is my weakness, and how are we going to bridge the gaps. And I also felt like I had to unlearn and relearn a lot of things, right? The GMAT was it's not just about concepts, it's also about strategy and how you attempt the questions, where there are very clinical methods that come to your way irrespective of the kind of question that comes to you. So if you know those methods, even in the most toughest question, it's going to work out. And also the aspect, because in the past, I actually, once I felt like I had a good grasp of the concepts, I went directly and I was trying to ace the 700 level questions. But that was the biggest mistake that I did. I had to do go through the different levels,
You have to
and then
go through gradually. Yes.
so all of that were really helpful. And three main things, because we are running out of time, and I really wanted to add those points, was I
Again, we can
really
slow down. We can slow down, Bhargavi. Don't worry about that. So again, Bhargavi has really picked up pace in this angle. So very quickly,
wanted
like
to
just
really, yeah, I really
uh,
wanted to share
I,
that point. So,
I'll definitely come to those angles as well, like the other angles of working professionals that we will cover. But just quickly summarizing what Bhargavi said was that the GMAT preparation was about three main aspects. The first angle was ensuring and understanding where you're going wrong, so having a proper action plan in place. That's very, very critical. And she used the GMAT as AI to kind of do that. In case you want to create a free trial account and check out some of our services for GMAT, you can use this link which I've just shared in the chat. That will help you to do it. So very important that you have an action plan in place, which is personalized. Second thing Cherish focused on was making sure that you connect with a mentor or someone who's an expert who can understand your use case and give you those insights as well, and not just the AI. So that is a combination which GMAT is gives. Like all our students get a mentor who get the support, who gets support you in that. So Parker, we worked with Zartaz and Satyam, two of our amazing mentors. And the third thing she focused on was not just learning concepts, but more importantly, developing the right approach to solve questions. The methodology is very important, not just the concept you're learning. And most people fail there. They just learn a concept, then do questions. That's what Barkavi was telling. So if you're someone who is just opening the official guide, learning the concepts from there, and just solving questions right after that, it might not be sufficient for you to get a good score. And she was able to overcome her weakness. Like she was telling me that she didn't study quant for 7 entire years before preparing for GMAT. And she was really low on confidence on quant more than the scores. It was the confidence which was also taking an impact, and she was able to improve her quant score to a 48. Now I know that's not a 50 or a 51, but for someone who had literally a quant phobia in mind, 48 in my opinion is an amazing score to kind of get to. So it's important that you tackle things in a strategic fashion. So sorry, Bhargavi, for cutting you, but I just thought that I think.
yes, of course, of course. The only other point that I wanted to add on, which felt like was one of my favorite, and very grateful for that feature to exist, was that, on in GMAT quiz, the mocks, right? Right after the mocks, there is like, the AI as such analyzes your performance and actually gives you a set of revision videos, right? It specifically tells you these are the concepts that you've gone wrong in. So look at these videos again, and then gives you a set of questions for you to work out and practice. And also you can go back. So that is one aspect of AI. And the mentor also comes in, because the dashboard clearly tells you, let's say permutation combinations, but where am I going wrong? Am I going wrong in the 600, 700, or the 500 level questions? So what level of questions am I going wrong? What topic I'm going wrong? And so that level of clinical understanding to where I was going wrong really helped me to like structure my approach to GMAT, which is what I was missing out on earlier when I was studying on my own. So that is why I have been active. I'm glad for going through the experience of GMAT Viz. And yeah, That's the only other point that I wanted to add. The score predictor also that comes with the platform felt was very accurate till the end. Even I felt like, hey, I am doing well in these quizzes. Why isn't this, getting higher? Because there was something else that I was missing out on. So, it was looking at all the aspects and giving me a target. So yes,
Yeah.
so
So
that's about
Bhargavi's score
it.
predictor was showing 690 to 710, and she got a score of 700, which was like right in between that. So yeah, that's there. So any don'ts for working professionals, Bhargavi, from your experience again, something that you would probably, if it could have changed, you could have changed about it, or anything for working professionals that you would like to say.
I would just say that, consistency is key. Like, this is, I'm sure, called across in many platforms, but specifically set a particular time after through the end of the day. You may feel exhausted because you already have had a long day, so you may feel tired. So try to see if you can pull out time before workday starts, so you're at your freshest, and you can devote the best version of yourself to your preparation, and ensure you do the same kind of prep throughout. Like, during, even if you are tired, just come sit there, just revise, do an active recall of the topics that you've studied till now to like refresh your memory, because it's so easy to like fall off track. Because work, just remind yourself that your the GMAT prep is, you're working for yourself and your development. So you need to prioritize yourself and ensure you take out time at every day some amount of time has to be taken out, and be clinical about how you're working through. Your time is very limited, so prepare well, prepare smartly how you're going to use your time to in your GMAT preparations. So yes, that's essential. That's the biggest tip that you have to keep in mind when you're going forward.
Really useful. Then thank you so much, Bhargavi, for taking our time. We planned this for a 40-minute session. It has gone to almost an hour, but we really thoroughly enjoyed it. In fact, I wanted to cover more angles, but yeah, it's just that we have to go through the time in a certain fashion. So any of you who wants to interact more with us, I'm just going to quickly share the details. You can always reach out to the GMAT team on the details that we have mentioned on the screen. So feel free to connect with us, with our team, and we hope we bring you more and more such stories. And Barkavi's career is just getting started, so we will try to see if she can find some time in INSEAD, which will be a luxury, to be honest. But I'm thinking again, just speaking out loud, Barkavi, we will probably try to see if you are free anytime during your curriculum and all, where we can actually do a session on how the curriculum is going. So we'll definitely bring her back to talk more about the other side of INSEAD, how it feels when you're a student and an alumni and all those things. So all the best, Barkoi, for the future ahead. It's really going to be an amazing experience studying from one of the top schools in the world. So all the best, and thank you so much for coming here today and sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you so much, Piyush. Really, really great. Grateful to be here at the other end of the side, and really grateful for all the help and support you had given me through the journey as well. And I just want to say one thing to the audience, that don't lose hope. There is time. Just it's all about practice and effort, and planning smartly. I'd honestly, after I'd given GMAT once, and when I messed up, I was questioning a lot of things, but with the right guidance and right process, you can honestly come with flying colors across the entire journey. So all the very best to all of you watching the interview as well. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. So we are going to end the broadcast now. Thank you, guys.